Hi everyone, tonight on Wellness Live, we're going to be talking about life changes. Our guest is from Malaysia. He originally is from Higgins Lake, Michigan, and went to high school at Roscommon High School. He's a friend of mine, someone I grew up with, and I'm really excited to have him on and for him to tell his story. It's really interesting. A lot of things, honestly, I've never even heard before. So I'm really excited. His name is Marcus Jean-Francois, a USA Marines veteran. So without further ado, let's get this started. We went to rival high schools. I went to Holton Lake High School. He went to Roscommon. It was kind of a fun little rivalry, but it was two small towns where everyone knew everyone. So that's kind of how we got hooked up. We had mutual friends. So I guess just kind of tell a little bit about your childhood growing up.
Ooh, it's a tough one. Well, I was an athlete. I grew up first homeschooled. Then I went to a private school for about 3 years, and I didn't like their sports program. I played basketball for them, but I knew I wanted more. So I begged to go to a public school. And then in 8th grade, my parents sent me to Roscommon. And then I was on the border since I was in Higgins Lake. It was between either Holton Lake or Roscommon, and my parents chose Roscommon for me. So started playing basketball in 8th grade, and then come high school time, I wanted to try out for football. Just watching on the movies and the shows, like everybody, plays football, so I wanted to try it. Well, I remember going to a summer camp, and the first day, this kid comes up to me and goes, "If you show up for the rest of the camp, we're going to pull you in the woods and beat you up." And I was like, okay, fair enough. And then I was like, all right. And so I told my buddy, and he said, "Dude, just come play soccer with us." Like, all right. So I started playing on the soccer team, and then that was great. We went to state finals, I think my sophomore year, junior year in high school. Played basketball, ran track, did baseball. So, but being an outsider when I was in high school, because I didn't grow up with everybody else, I was always treated differently. Everybody made fun of me, they bullied me. I would say random things, and they would use that against me. So yeah, it was tough. Didn't really have the best time in high school.
So it's kind of interesting because I grew up going to a Catholic school in Prudenville for 6 years, and then in 7th grade, my parents transferred my brother and I to public school. So I kind of had the same scenario where I was considered the Catholic schoolgirl, and got bullied a little bit that way. And then my kind of out was sports. I was really good at sports, so I was then able to kind of make connections that way. So was soccer helpful for you?
I did make some friendships, but at the same time, boys are just really competitive. So when it was, if I was better than somebody, then they would, kind of gang up on me and wouldn't want me to succeed. It felt like I was always getting like blocked. Like if I was doing better and improving, they didn't like that. And so it was always an uphill challenge for me.
Okay. And then, when we met each other, it was in high school, so I didn't know, a lot of the background. And I guess the way we met each other was honestly at parties. And so I kind of asked you the question of what would be 3 words people would describe you as? So what were those 3 words?
I would have to say the first one is a jock. The second one, everybody used to call me a prep, which I don't know if they still use that word.
Not really.
And then a stoner / partier. That was what I was pretty much known for. Like you said, we met at parties, and half the time it was the party that I started.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that, because of how I was treated in high school, it made me want to be accepted. And so I found an outlet, and that was throwing parties. And risking, you know, risking getting in trouble, risking my parents getting in trouble if the house got busted while they're gone, or whatever it is. But yeah, that's what I was known for in high school, was all the parties, unfortunately.
I mean, and that's kind of what we wanted to all talk about. Our conversation started of me contacting you, just some of the decision making that's been happening. And I can look back on my life, and I made some stupid decisions and things like that as well. But I think your story was really interesting in terms of, what was that turning point for you to make that life change? Be like, you know what, this isn't the path I want to go down. I'd rather be accepted for something positive rather than just be accepted in high school by all these people who are really just bullying me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, because in high school, you think that high school's all that matters. You care about what you wear every day. You care about everybody's opinion. You want to be accepted. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be different. And now, when you get out of high school and in college, that's what they teach you, is to be different, to be your own individual. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And the turning point that I had was, I was 18. It was 4th of July weekend. I took one beer maybe, and then I drove my buddies down the road, and I got pulled over right down the road from my house. They arrested me. They sent me to jail that night. They charged me with a DUI, and then I had a court date like 2 weeks later. They gave me a minor while operating with blood alcohol content, so less than a DUI. I don't know why. They just did. And so that kind of hit me like, wow, like, why I'm 18, everybody's going off to college. I wasn't. I was like, is this the life that I want to be? Am I going to be that guy that just stays in my hometown and just gets in trouble, and that's what I'm known for? And so that was my turning point. I moved down to Ann Arbor, Michigan, like 2 weeks later, got 3 jobs immediately, started paying off my fines, went to the alcohol classes they made me go to. I think I did community service as well. And then that was really hard for me. And then I got an apartment. I was on my own for a good 2 years. And then one guy that I was working with, he wanted to join the Navy. And I was like, the Navy? And he's like, yeah, I want to be a Navy SEAL. I go, well, that sounds pretty cool. I was like, let's do it. So we started training hard every day after work or before work. And then we got a mentor that was a Green Beret Army Ranger, and then he was a Navy SEAL, and we started working with him. It was about 6 months in, and then one weekend my Navy recruiter called me and said, hey, the Navy is no longer accepting any applicants with alcohol-related charges. I was like, so now what do I do? And he's like, what do you think about the Marine Corps? I was like, I want to be a Marine. Like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And he's like, just go in their office. I'll send over their paperwork. I'm like, okay, fine. So Monday morning, I sit there and I have a bad attitude because I didn't want to be there. And the guy's like, when do you want to leave? I was like, I don't care. Just send me out.
Tomorrow.
It was like, yeah. And it was basically like tomorrow. Before I knew it, I was in South Carolina, Paris Island, standing there on yellow footprints, getting screamed at. I'm like, what did I sign up for? Like, this is crazy.
I want to go home.
Yeah. So if it wasn't for that DUI, I probably wouldn't have ended up in Ann Arbor, which, then I wouldn't have met that guy and joined the military. And I think joining the military was the best decision I ever made. And I remember coming home on leave, and people would ask me, oh, where do you go to college, or what did you study? And I'm like, I'm in the military, actually. And people would actually look down on me.
Really?
And I'm like, yeah, it was crazy.
Huh.
Everybody I met always looked down on me and like, oh, you're in the military. Did you do it for free education? Is that why? Like, no, like I I fell in love with the idea that the harder you pushed yourself, the better you were as an individual, that you could get promoted in the ranks the faster you could. And because the job that I held in Ann Arbor, you could only be a manager if you had a degree. And so that was really frustrating to me because I could only make minimum wage.
Right.
I had an apartment that was, $1,400 a month, which is ridiculous. And I was only 18. So I was working like 70 hours a week just to pay rent and barely feed myself. And so when I heard about the military, I'm like, well, you can get promoted if you're good. Like, okay. So I went in really confident, and I picked up sergeant in 3.5 years. I was 3 years ahead of my peers.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I ended my career just before I got promoted to staff sergeant. I was actually selected, but then decided to get out.
Okay. And then what jobs did you have? I mean, that's your ranking, but then what type of jobs did you have?
So when I went in, I was a motor transportation operator, which means I just drove really big trucks.
Okay.
I can drive anything from Humvee to those big tactical vehicles that you see on TV to a charter bus. I have every single license the Marine Corps had. I was hungry, so I took every opportunity I could. After that, when I got promoted to a sergeant, I had an opportunity to work for diplomatic security at embassies. And so this was a pretty tough selection, where you have to go through an 8-week school.
Okay.
Every week you have to write a report on your students, which they're writing reports on you. So it's all based on your behavior throughout the 8 weeks. They do a very intensive background check. So I do have a pretty high clearance.
Still, you don't have it anymore, though, I'm guessing.
I still have it. Yeah, it's still valid for like another year. So if I want to keep it, I can find a job, and then it kind of gets renewed.
Huh.
So yeah, and I didn't realize that my actions that I made in high school were gonna follow me that far, because at this time I was 23, maybe 20, just turning 24. And so that was 8 years, before or after, I did all those stupid things in high school, like throwing parties and, that DUI. And when I did my background check, they knew all of it.
Oh,
Before even interviewing anybody that I wrote down, because I would write down, oh, talk to my mom, she'll tell you all the good stuff and whatever. But no, they knew everything. And so it's kind of scary that the actions that you make when you're young follow you for so long, depending on, what you want to do in life. And it can really hold you back. And I got lucky. There's a selection week at week 5 where they ask you, they go over your whole record, and the director of the program brings you up, and then he asks you about some of the things, and he's like, well, Sergeant Jean-Francois, I see that you have an issue with drinking, or you had some problems in your past. And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, is that still an issue for you? No, sir. And he's like, have you had any problems since you've been in the Marine Corps? I was like, sir, I haven't had one single negative counseling or paperwork my entire career. And he goes, very well, I'll see you at graduation. So that was a pretty big deal for me, because that's when I knew I was on the right path. I was making the right decisions, because that was probably the most judgmental situation I've ever been in, where everything was online. And so then after that, they sent me to Santiago, Chile, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and then Cairo, Egypt, where I worked security at the U.S. embassies. So I did that up until I got out. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. That's where I got to meet the presidents, the vice president, the ambassadors, the top generals of the world from many different militaries. It was a constant just meeting diplomats. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And that was all in Egypt?
That was everywhere. So let's see, Chile, that was during Obama. Malaysia was still Obama, and then switched over to Trump. And then, yeah, so all throughout that, that's a lot of POTUS visits and just top officials from all over. And when they come in, we run extra security and stuff like that. So
very cool. And kind of going back to that piece where you're saying, you know, what you did in high school kind of was still with you, like it was still dragging on like a anchor kind of scenario. And I got thinking about it in terms of, so my dad was in Michigan State Police, and my sister and brother-in-law are also police officers, and thinking about their background checks where, you know, they're talking to the family, they're talking to the people you wrote down, just as you were saying, but then they're going out of their way to find people who might say something bad about you as well. And it just makes me like think back of like, man, like I really hope that there's people who want to say good things about me no matter who they are, because what if I do want a job like that? Or what if I, you know, have to trade schools or something like that? And am I going to be able to get a job, or is my reputation going to weigh me down? So I think that's really cool that you brought that up, because it is true, because a lot of times it's all about who you know do. And
yeah, actually, yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes.
It's a good thing and a bad thing.
Right, exactly. So then, all right, so now you're in Malaysia, you're a fitness coach. You and your girlfriend have done some really cool things, from me being able to follow you on social media. Do you still have your little part-time, like on the side training of, you call it Fit Like Frenchie, right?
Yeah, because people used to call me Frenchie in high school. So stuck with that name. And then, yeah, so Fit Like Frenchie is now the brand that we carry for our coaching right now. We do remote coaching. So we have clients from all over the world. We have, just to name a few, America, Pakistan, Egypt. I mean, they're spread all over.
Okay.
And so we all do it on an online platform. It's pretty interactive. It's very easy for the client and for us to program. Have you heard of True Coach?
Yeah. Yep.
So we use True Coach. Yep.
Very nice.
And then now we coach at the international school here. So we teach children from 6 to 11, and then we coach the staff as well.
Is that daily or only certain times a week, or?
The kids are twice a week, and the staff is once a week for now. We're trying to get them to do twice a week as
That'd be
well,
awesome.
because once a week you really can't get that much benefit from it. You know?
And it's just if they want to, it's all optional, or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's optional if they want to. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
And then
we proposed the idea, so we're just waiting to see if they want to do twice a week. But every day or every time we come to the school, the principal will be like, "Oh yeah, the staff's complaining they're too sore to sit down or whatever." So
that sounds like my students. And then you guys started something at your church, right?
Yep. So we call it Move, and where we open it up from everybody from about 6 years old all the way to 80, and we started with 89 people, I think it was.
That's awesome.
And so it's just a place where we can take people from the church and then also bring in people from the outside, to bring them in and make it a more relaxed environment that's not, threatening. Some people are really threatened by church. I don't want to be pressured into, converting into Christianity. Like that's not what we're doing. We're bringing people together through fitness, and then hopefully just creating better people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly.
And that's really what I'm trying to do here at the school as well. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great thing. And here is a really neat place because, say back home, people are, they're Christian, some are Christians, and you might talk to people about, their church or whatever, but it's not that common. Here, when you meet somebody new, they ask you a few questions. They ask you, where do you live, like which area, and then maybe what do you do and which church you go to. It's a normal thing here. So everybody's connected to a church in some way. And we go to, I think the biggest one here, I think they have about 2,000 people. And so, we're like, oh, we go to Glory, and they're like, oh yeah, we know Glory. So it's really cool, and it's nice to see that there's so many children involved as well. And they have life groups where they have like 1 or 2 or 3 leaders, and they create a group of people, and they meet up once a week, and they go out to dinner, they see a movie, and they do a little bit of fellowship. And so it's really cool. I mean, it's a really tight community here, and so we're trying to bring the fitness aspect into everything. And the church has opened up so many opportunities for us where did we meet him? We went to the Capitol, and we did this weekend like camp type thing with this church. Met this guy who was teaching this class about sports ministry. And so he's like, I coach floorball. I'm like, what's floorball? It's indoor hockey, with a wiffle ball. And what he did is he saw this in Europe and was like, I want to start this in Malaysia. So he started floorball in Malaysia and now coaches the floorball team, the state floorball team, to represent the country. And he asked us, he's like, hey, just come on by to practice and, play around with us and see what it's about. Like, okay. And then afterwards, he asked us if we could coach their team because he wanted them to be conditioned. Like, sure, why not? And then from there, he's like, I know somebody, and I think I can get you in. And it's this fellowship of Christian athletes, I think it's called.
Yeah.
FCA, yeah. And the conference is in Singapore in December, and he got us in. And so all we have to do is fly there. They're going to pay for our room and board. And for 3.5 days, we're going to go over, how to be a better leader and lead sports ministry in our church.
That's awesome. You'll love FCA. I was in it in high school, and then we have FCA at our school here. And I mean, the kids that are involved with it, and it's not just for athletes. That's the best part. The way we advertise it here at the school is, it's for anyone. If you want a place to eat lunch on a Tuesday, if you just want to meet new people, if you are an athlete, that's great. If you're not an athlete, if you're a Christian, if you're not, like, they market it really well to just make it be welcoming to anyone. So you're going to love that. That's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, we're excited for it.
But now, if you don't mind me asking, Christianity and like your relationship with God hasn't always been there. Am I right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Do you mind telling a little bit of your story with that, your testimony a little bit?
Sure. So my grandpa's actually a pastor. I grew up in the church twice every Sunday, once on Thursday, ever since, as young as I could remember. And then once I moved out, I stopped going to church. When I was in boot camp, I went to church there. And that was kind of like our saving grace, where we didn't have to get yelled at by drill instructors for an hour. But it was mainly, we went there to sleep, You bow your head and you close your eyes, and they say, hey, wake up. And you're like, shh, I'm praying. Oh, okay, I'm praying. Because you only get like 4 hours of sleep in boot camp.
Right.
So that's, unfortunately, that's when I drifted away from God. I would still pray in my rack, but I wasn't going to church, and I wasn't practicing it as much as I should. And as my career went on and I faced struggles, I didn't go to God for help. I blamed others, is naturally what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd wonder like why, and I'd always think it's somebody else, So lately, for the last few years now, and because I'm here and my girlfriend's religious, and church has now been a huge part of our life. Every time I work out, I pray. Every time I finish my workout, I pray. Before competition, I pray. And what that has enabled me to do is be mentally stronger, and as well as know that I'm training for a bigger purpose. Basically, I'm training to glorify God. That's all I'm doing, and I'm using my body to, to do that. So something that I've learned over the years is to surround myself with people that can make me better. People who are encouraging. In high school and even in the military, there's so many toxic people out there and if you care about what those toxic people think, then you're no better. You're just getting worse. And so I like to distance myself. If I meet someone and I just don't really have a good feeling about them, or they're always being negative or talking down on people, I'm like, okay, it was nice meeting you. Thank you. And then I'm gone, and I don't talk to them no more. So yeah, surrounding myself with better people has changed my life dramatically. And what you said, it's learning from what I did. And people always ask me, like, do you regret doing the things that you did in high school? And I do, of course. Like, I wish I would have focused more on my athletics. I wish I would have known about CrossFit back then. CrossFit would have changed my life entirely if I would have known about it in high school, which it was out back then. But it just wasn't so mainstream. I'm happy with the way that my life has turned out, and I'll take life experience over anything.
Right.
And I learned a lot from it. And when everybody was getting wasted in the Marine Corps, or even now, I'm studying, I'm reading books, and I was doing things to better my career, because I knew, like, if that person's out there drinking and smoking weed and getting in trouble, then I can start getting better, so I use it to my advantage.
And I think that's something to think about even right now, like for the students that, people within our school who are doing those things currently. And do you know the difference of, are they doing something wrong right now, and can I excel by stepping in front of them right now? Or do I just want to join in with them and risk something bad happening, like a DUI that could alter what goes on? Like, it's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas, or what ifs. And I don't know, I guess, what do you say to that? Like, right now, a high schooler who is currently doing that kind of thing, what could you steer them towards right now?
I really wish I could go back and talk to my younger self. I'd kick him right in the butt. Let's see.
If you wouldn't change your life now because of what you've grown from it, and I'm trying to put myself in my student's situation, I'm like, well, then his life turned out fine. Like, it's all good. Well, what if that DUI would have been? What if you would have had one more beer? What if that would have been a car accident, and that kind of scenario where you're playing the what if game, but what do you say to him?
I got really lucky. Somebody was definitely looking out for me, obviously the big man upstairs, because I had 2 minor possessions of alcohol when I was 15, 16, I think I was. And so if I would have had that DUI, if it would have been a full DUI, it would have become a felony. And because they charged me with just a minor while operating with BAC, it was like a misdemeanor almost. And it didn't, do any harm to my record.
Right.
And I remember sitting there at court, and the prosecutor was like, I don't know why they're giving you this. And I go, I don't know. But yeah, if it could have turned way worse. Everything that I did, driving home from a party, or it could have been a kid driving from my house, and if they would have gotten into an accident, it could have been so bad for me. My life would have been flipped upside down. And I got really lucky.
Yeah.
And I don't think that many people get that lucky. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. And if you keep going down that road, you're like, oh, I'll go smoke weed with my buddies. Well, now I think it's legal in Michigan now, right?
Yeah, it is
So,
unfortunate.
I mean, so let's just say underage, whatever you're doing, and you think that, oh, I'm not going to get caught this time. Eventually you're going to. The numbers just, they add up and you're going to get caught. The odds aren't in your favor for that long. And you might be lucky if you get caught your first time and you learn from it. But if you don't get caught for, say, several years, and then eventually, say if you have a child and you are drinking and driving, now you lose your child, you lose much more. And you're like,
Right.
well, this is what I've been doing for, ever.
Yep. And you had the Marine Corps to kind of to save you, and then you had your encounter with God that saved you, and then now you've mentioned it a couple of times. Like now you have CrossFit, and you're a level 2 trainer. You're a gymnastics trainer.
Yeah, I gotta say it's pretty crazy how everything has shaped the way that it has. From how I was in high school to now, and I'll sit in my bed and I'll read the Bible. I'll constantly praying and stuff like that, and trying to change lives through fitness and God, and it's been quite the journey, I'll tell you.
So then I guess we'll kind of start to wrap it up. But if you could give just one solid bit of advice, I know you've kind of put it in throughout the whole talk, but if you could leave with just one thing, what would you want these kids to know? And it's a very loaded question.
It is. And to keep it simple, I would have to say surround yourself with good people, like I said, and don't be afraid to be different.
Yes. Amen.
So
That's
yeah.
very good. That's awesome.